Thank you and welcome to September 19th, the Human Relations Commission meeting. This is a Zoom meeting that is being interpreted. So as Brenda shared, please select the language of your choice by clicking on the interpretation icon below in your screen. For meetings that are held with this feature of interpretation, we ask of speakers to please speak slowly and clearly pronounce your words and breathe between sentences to avoid interrupting the speaker. And if you have your own headset with a microphone, especially for those who have signed up for public participation, we encourage you to please use it. Also, once you select one channel, make sure that you only speak in that channel. Otherwise, you may lose bits and pieces of the message. And please mute yourself when you're not speaking to limit any kind of background noise. Lastly, please avoid using any idioms such as quick cold turkey or be under the weather, as those are more difficult to interpret. Before kicking us to the meeting, I would like to just go over the public participation city meeting guidelines. As we use these guidelines in every city meeting that include community members. So as part of this effort, these guidelines were co-created to ensure that these meetings are meaningful, productive, and inclusive. This vision supports the physical and emotional safety of community members, staff, board commission members, as well as democracy for people of all ages, identities, lived experience, and political perspectives. If you would like to learn more about the vision and community engagement process, there is a website that you can visit to learn more. It is the one that is showing on the screen, and I can put it as well in the chat. Some of the rules of decorum found in the Boulder Revised Code and other guidelines that support this vision are the following. All remarks and testimony should be limited to matters related to city business. No participant should make threats or use any other forms of intimidation against any person. Obscenity, racial epithets, and other speech and behavior that disrupts or otherwise impedes the ability to conduct the meeting are prohibited. And participants are required to sign up to speak using their name or the name that is commonly known by, and individuals must display their whole name before being allowed to speak online. With that, I'm going to start sharing my screen and pass the microphone to our co-chair, Carlos.
Good evening, welcome to this meeting. Today is Tuesday, September 19, and it's 6:15. We're going to start our meeting. Let's see, point number 2, agenda adjustment. You have any adjustment to do at the agenda? The age, Anna? Yeah.
Oh,
That's the agenda.
okay.
Any point that you want to add?
I don't have anything to add. Do I have to read it to people? Or?
No.
Now, the agenda adjustments is if you want to make any changes in the agenda that was sent to you via email. The agenda today includes these items, but the call is for all the commissioners to share if there's any adjustments that you need to make to the agenda?
I don't see any adjustment.
Good. It's the same. Thank you.
Thank you. So point number 3, approval of the minutes from the retreat. Everybody that we are here, we're in the retreat. So you have any question, any to comment about that?
I have a question. Do we have 2 presenters today or 1? Someone gonna present? Or-
Yes.
We do have people who will be participating in the open comment. At 6:15, we're a little bit over time and that's fine. But right now, you all need to make a motion to approve the retreat minutes. Christine, I know you're joining us online. Please feel free to raise your hand or unmute yourself to participate.
Thanks, Ingrid. Since I wasn't at the retreat, I just don't know if I should be participating in the approval or any of that, but I suppose I'd be happy to vote for the approval if somebody else makes the motion, since I'm not able to comment about the retreat.
Okay, anyone to do the motion for approval? The retreat notes?
Should I, how do I do that? Do I take a motion to approve it or?
You can just say, I make a motion to.
I'm making a motion to approve the meeting of the 9/19/2023.
It would be August.
Oh, it was the last meeting.
Yeah.
Make a motion to approve the last meeting. August 23, right?
21, 23.
21/2023.
Who will second that motion?
I second the motion. Okay, let's go to point number 4, open comments.
After seconding the motion, everybody needs to
Say hi.
Oh, yeah, sorry. We need to put that motion. Raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Kill. So are we ready for open comment?
Yes.
Great. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for a moment and invite our guests in. We do have 2 community members who have signed up in advance to come and present to you. So allow me just to promote community member Lindsay Loberg and community member Stan Dietz. Please accept the invitation to be promoted as panelist. And feel free to unmute yourself. I'm gonna start the timer.
Thanks, Ingrid. Stan, can you begin with the background, please?
Yes. Yeah, so basically we were here to talk a little bit about the issue 302, which has been labeled as safe zones for kids. We oppose the measure and we'd hope that you might join us in doing so. The measure itself tries to or tends to amend existing city code, which regulates the use of camping and propane tanks. What it adds to this is a specification of zones in which this would receive priority enforcement. Those zones would include 500 feet around any of the 26 schools, 50 feet around sidewalks and multi-use paths. It does not in any way mention kids, nor does it in any way increase the safety of kids as it is written. Basically, the city already has the capability of enforcement of these issues. It also has the ability to prioritize certain areas, which it has done in the past. In some ways, if we were to approve this ballot issues, it expands the zones so widely to make it almost impossible for the city to enforce it unless they dilute the city's efforts to be able to pinpoint problem areas and enforce those areas there. If you think about the city as 26 schools, 500 feet around them, 50 feet around sidewalks, multi-use paths, we've included almost all the public spaces that exist within the city. It would not be enforceable. And it does not in any sense in this way prioritize kids. The focus.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but can you please speak a little bit slower for the interpreters?
Sure, sorry.
Yeah, especially, they really need to get the full sentences. Thank you.
Okay.
And also, I'm sorry to interrupt, Ingrid. We can't see the timer online, so I'm concerned that Stan won't know when your time is up.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have a timer going and I have right at 2 minutes of used. So
Great. I'll let you know.
And so, basically our concerns are, one is that this expands things so much that nothing is prioritized. The existing city ordinances allow prioritization both of the spaces that are being enforced and the use of the various ways of sweeping to enforce those spaces. This would tie the city's hands. Not only does it tie the city's hands in terms of the priorities themselves and the means of enforcement, but the only way this ever could be revoked is by a ballot issue. So this is in perpetuity unless there is another ballot issue passed. It also harms in two different ways. One, it tends to destabilize the homeless populations, pushing them into areas of the city and open spaces and other places that are hard to both connect with, use public resources to help, and to, of course, protect those members of the citizens themselves. It also diverts tremendous amounts of resources away from what evidence has demonstrated as being more viable ways of, in fact, dealing with the problem of homelessness and promoting public safety. And so I'm going to turn it over to Lindsay for specific asks that we might present to you.
Thanks, Dan. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. Thank you for having us. In light of the background that Stan has just shared, is what we'd like to ask you all as a commission is to consider sending a letter to council urging them to use their station, so you using your station as an advisory board, to support evidence-based solutions to the homelessness problem, specifically as an alternative to this ballot measure 302, which is called Safe Zone for Kids, for the reasons that Stan just made clear. I think as a mechanism, like what we want to do is like make clear the thing that we're asking. What we're asking you to do is something analogous to what we did in October of 22 with ballot measure 2E. So I think you all have an example of that, at least everybody who's been on the commission for a while. We realize capacity is limited. In fact, we've gotten an email about that, so we can share with you talking points, and we can even draft something that you can suggest edits for until you feel good about like actually signing on to it, if that is a helpful thing. By we, I mean me, Stan, other members of this counter campaign called Solutions Not Safe Zones. And then as individuals, we ask you to consider joining the counter campaign, talking to your networks about the ballot measure, voting no on measure 302. And then also you can publicly endorse the counter campaign, and we can share the link to do that with you after the meeting, the link to endorse the campaign as an individual. We can also hang around for responses or questions if you have them. I think we're about at time. Thank you, everyone, and thanks for coordinating with us, Ingrid.
Of course, thank you very much.
May I say a few words? I know this hybrid situation is a little bit awkward, so I don't, I can only see tiny little dots for those of you who are in the room, so nobody's stopping me, so I'm going to go ahead and talk. First of all, Stan and Lindsay, thank you very much for coming. I think most of you know Anna, I'm not sure if you're aware, both Stan and Lindsay are former members of the HRC. So fairly recently, within the last, well, Stan, I think I took Stan's seat. I think Stan rolled off as I was coming on, and Lindsay just rolled off last year. So thank you for coming. I just wanted to say individually, I support what you were doing. I do think that this measure that's being proposed is, I think it's an attempt to deal with a situation that does, I want to acknowledge that there are problems, but I feel that the solutions being proposed have far-ranging implications that would actually not be beneficial for the city of Boulder. So I do support what you're doing. I just wanted to say to the other commissioners, at the moment, unfortunately, I have very limited personal capacity. But if any of you are interested in taking a lead and having the HRC craft something, I would be happy to help. But if that is, that is not something that other people want to know, I would say now is a really good opportunity to ask questions of Lindsay and Stan that you have about the measure. And that's just what I wanted to offer up right now. Thank you.
Thanks, Christine.
Did you all were able to hear the question? Do you mind speaking up again and sharing it?
Yeah, my question about what limit from school are you proposing to have for people? Yeah.
So right now, the city is able to prioritize schools, particularly the problem has been at Boulder High School. And it's able in its prioritization to, in fact, identify places of concern around safety, places where instances may have occurred, and so forth. The ballot measure, what it does is to spread this concept of a zone throughout the city, which makes a priority for the city council, instead of having the city council use their own matrix for making those decisions. And it also preferences the idea of sweeping rather than other ways in which the unhoused are put into situations that are less problematic to the public. We all agree that there's a serious problem in the city. The question really is, what are the best ways forward, whether using council's capacity to prioritize or passing a ballot measure that specifies a very blanket form of prioritization. Does that help?
Okay, I think this is very interesting. And we are going to talk between us what we can do and to help you if we can do that letter that you are asking and send it to the city council. Let's see what we can do. We are going to talk about that, and let's see what we can do. Because yeah, I understand that that is a big problem that have this kind of people in our schools, and not only near schools. Is by my house we have the same problem, and the stores that are there are complaining about this kind of people too. Yeah, so we are going to talk about what we can do to help you in this matter.
We appreciate your consideration, and we really are focusing on what is the best way to provide the safety. No, we're not disagreeing with the need for promoting greater needs of safety.
Yeah, we're agreeing that too.
Mhm.
Thanks, Carlos.
Thank you, Lizzie. Any other question or comment that you have?
I do. Safety is priority for schools, especially for children.
Yes.
Well, thank you to be here, and we are going to be in contact with you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Have a nice rest of your meeting.
Thank you, Lizzie. Welcome, Peter.
Hi, everyone. I'm so sorry I'm late.
Okay. Let's go on. Let's go to point 5, action items. We need a president of the commission. And last time we were talking with the JH about this. If he can take the lead of this commission.
Love to interject here, if it's okay. So I can give you a little bit of context as of what the requirements are for the commission. And yet we can go over the specificity of what that chair role requires. So ideally, right after there's new seats open and the chair role is open, a new chair member will be appointed. The way how this is described in your manual is that someone can self-postulate and it's up to the commission to vote, or you can postulate among yourself and bring a name up. Now the specific role includes a commitment of following up on meeting work items, meaning that after each meeting, it is really the role of the chair with support of the co-chair to bring in the items that you all have conversations about and follow up on them. That it also requires an additional monthly hour, sometimes it's 40 minutes, with the co-chair and staff to set up the agenda for the following month. So I usually connect with the chair and co-chair and try to find a time and date that works to be able to schedule that 1 hour meeting that is additional to your time here. The role of the chair also includes facilitating the monthly meetings. So right now, Carlos is fulfilling that role in the absence of the chair. He, as co-chair, is assuming this role of facilitation during the meetings. And during the meetings, it is necessary that the chair ensures the equitable participation of all the members and engagement. Also maintains consistent, active communications with the co-chair with response to community inquiries and staff. As you all know and receive the minutes and the agenda, we do have an email with all of your contact information. This is a group email that where I send communications to, and the chair as well has the role of maintaining those communications. And when community members email you, the chair has the task of responding to those emails. This is in addition to the same expectations that all the other members of the commission have. So in absence of the chair, the co-chair fills in that role. And we haven't had a chair for a couple months now. Now, this is something that can be continued as is. We have bring up this item before in other meetings, and you haven't reached a consensus, and that's okay. You do not have to reach a consensus today if you are not sure about how to move forward. But if you're ready to move forward and someone would like to postulate and say, I'm ready to take on the chair role, please do so. This is a conversation that you should have among yourselves. I hope that helps a little bit to frame the conversation. I don't know, Elizabeth, do you want to add anything else?
I think you shared it well. Yeah, just that we don't, from a staff perspective, we'll support whoever the vice chair and chair are. And it's important that if someone does want to do this, you really feel confident that you kind of have the time and the focus to lend to it. Right? It can be a lot of pressure to step into a role, feel like you have to, if you're not sure you can. So Ingrid and I are here to support regardless. So again, if somebody is really interested and wants to, or if you just want to think about it, that's fine. We're also happy to keep going, as long as Carlos is interested in being the vice chair. So that's all. And I would also just take this moment to interject that the food arrived after the meeting started. I think that, Carlos, if you wanted to let people have a break and get food, that would be perfectly acceptable.
Yeah,
since we've had public comment.
Let's take a little break and eat something.
You want to grab food real quick? Go for it.
I'm having a very sad dinner of crackers because that's all I can eat right now.
Sorry, Christine.
It's very, very sad.
Is that a Hershey's chocolate bar?
It's a she wish. It's a cracker.
I'm eating saltine crackers for dinner tonight.
You can imagine it's a Hershey bar.
Poor thing.
Yeah, looks like the cookies and cream Hershey bar.
We're sending warm healing thoughts your way, Christine.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. We can't catch a break around here.
this addressing.
For members of the audience, I'm gonna mute the room and also stop the video for a couple minutes while commissioners gather some food and back to your seat and take a short break.
What do you need?
Water.
Get you a glass. Anybody else want a glass of water? There we go.
Okay. We are talking about get our president or chair this commission. Any comment that you want to do or suggestion that you have?
Well, the thing with it is that,
You speak up a little, please. Remember the interpreters.
oh, good. Cause you're picking English.
It's online for the recording and people who come
Okay,
later.
sure, yeah, I want to. Yeah, I would love to. Oh, thank you. Don't volunteer. Yeah, so. Yes, I would love to. That's all. Is Lindsay and no,
Okay.
they're gone. Okay, yeah, cool. I'll probably talk to them. You know, it's. I wish they were still here. Sure, yeah, I can. Do it, I can. I
Good.
speak louder, man.
Okay. Christine, were you able to hear JH clearly?
Yeah, I can hear. That's awesome. I think that's great.
Okay. Well, JH proposed like a share of this commission. We need to make a motion. Who wants to make the motion for?
I'll do it. I'd like to move that Jean Hilaire become chair of the Human Relations Commission for this term.
I second.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's do the vote of this motion. Just raise your hand or say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Okay, now we have a chair of this commission.
I'm a chairman. I wanted to help if everyone, but I have to say that. I don't know what.
I'm
it
sorry,
is.
what?
I said, I don't know what it is. I wanted to help with everyone. In order to be a good chair. That's my last year probably here.
Right, the next agenda item, Carlos, I'm gonna go ahead and bring up the screen again. So it's, we can follow. Ingrid, can I make a quick point?
So we'll
Yes.
follow up afterward, just with any specific kind of review again of the role. The chair role, just check in with any support you will need. Sound good?
Sounds good. I will. I'll reach out a lot.
So, Taylor, thank you for being here. You bet.
Okay. Let's go to 0.6. Formal items or discussions. Let's talk about minimum wage overview.
Certainly, my name is Taylor Ryman, nice to meet you guys. I, up until 2 weeks ago, was in the city manager's office, as assistant city council. I did that for a few years, and in my role, I was helping a council member and sort of building regional support to advance minimum wage. I know this is a topic that HRC has talked about in some years past, so I don't know if it was this exact makeup of HRC that talked about it, but maybe at least a couple of you were part of those conversations. Understand that this is an issue that's, I feel like, really touches on almost everybody in one way or another. Either you're directly related to, does the minimum wage change my life directly, or Does my employer make business decisions based on like a minimum wage that impacts me through compression or anything? Like it's just, I guess I'm just saying it's a wide spanning issue, and wanted to bring an update to this group on where those conversations have been at. And you've enabled screen sharing for me. Thank you. Oh, host disabled participants screen sharing. Might need to make me co-host. There we go. These conversations started, at least the most recent iteration of minimum wage at a local level, back in 2019, when the legislation was passed that enabled us to raise minimum wage above what the state did. Before that, we were preempted from doing so. We kind of kicked around some conversation, we got some things started, but they were quickly shut down because of the COVID pandemic and just its impact on changing everything we do, changing the way we do things. Those conversations have started up again about a year ago through the Boulder County Consortium of Cities, which is a group of elected representatives from each of the cities in Boulder County. They talk about how do we collaborate on a county level on things that make sense, and this came up as one of those things that we might collaborate on. So after several months and talking to councils and figuring out what does it look like to do this moving forward, we sort of set up a very high level game plan, if you will, on what that could look like. And the next slide I'm going to show you this is super high level bird's eye view of what this might look like. On the bottom there is the full timeline, and it outlines really what it's helpful for is outlining like what are the chunks of work that we need to do to make this happen jointly, and what are the sort of steps of the process. I wouldn't get tied up in like the month durations that are assigned to each of the things, because as we've started into that work, things are shifting and changing, and we're finding out some things might need more time and some things might need less time. So I wouldn't get hung up on that. But where we're at is in that darker blue area, all the way on the bottom left there, scoping engagement models and economic analysis. And this is because when we were talking to different council members in the communities listed, Boulder, Longmont, Louisville, Lafayette, and actually Erie is part of this regional effort as well. Two of the biggest pieces of council feedback was questions about like, so who really is paying minimum wage right now? How would this impact people's ability to be eligible for benefits? So like a benefits cliff analysis, some of those more technical questions. And then another sort of broad category of council feedback was, how do people feel about this? What is public sentiment? Like, do we feel like the market is responding? Do people want wages raised or not? And if they do, is that a living wage? Is that just a raise in the current level that we have right now? Oh, go slow. So based on the council feedback, we are tackling the next steps, which are scoping the engagement work and scoping an economic analysis. Those two scoping teams have been meeting for about 6 weeks now. We meet once every 2 weeks, and I wanted to show you who's on those teams from the staff side. I think that some of these roles and some of the people that are at these tables are pretty squarely in like communications, for example, but we also have other folks who bring other voices to the table, like economic development and just general leadership members of different organizations. We also have ex officio representatives, we are calling them, from the public. So members of chambers of commerce and various labor groups, nonprofits. This is the engagement team. And then those members, and then these are the economic analysis team members. We've been having really good conversations about what does this look like to do both engagement and an economic analysis in parallel. And how does it look for us to approach that coordinated on sort of the 5 cities in the county doing this together, but also making sure that we have the flexibility in both of those items to study things more in our specific unique city context. And sorry, I lost my train of thought. I think that some of what we're wrapping our heads around is what is the appropriate scope for this, especially considering you might have heard Boulder County is moving forward. And Boulder County actually was part of this regional conversation up until about 2 months ago, when county commissioners decided that they wanted to implement something sooner in 2024 instead of what we've been talking about as a regional group, which is 2025. Now, we have gotten a lot of pushback on the 2025 timeline and why can't we do something sooner? You know, the urgency of the issue is now, and people are hurting now, and we need to respond to that. And that is what Boulder County is doing. What the regional group has decided, though, is maybe one or two of us could do something quicker, but the reality is that to do it together, we would need more time because there are just certain aspects of this conversation that would not move forward for certain councils absent something like an economic analysis study. So we've decided to take a slower approach, but understanding that we see more value in the collective power that's gained in that. And so the county and the group are doing similar things, just a little bit differently. And also, how does that play into our conversation? So to align ourselves on what exactly are we all.
Should I hold my questions for the end, or can I?
No, I'm take them as we go.
Okay. I'm trying to understand like this whole county versus city thing. Does this mean that the county outside of these 5 cities are going to place a minimum wage sometime, you know, in 2024, and then these 5 cities are collectively opting out until our plan is done the year after? Or like, what, practically speaking, what does it actually mean for people?
Great question. And honestly, this has caused so much confusion. It's been tricky to navigate the fact that the county's kind of gone off and done their own thing. And the working group is still on a different track. If/when the county passes their minimum wage, which is they're going for 15% raise in the coming year, it would only apply to unincorporated county. So it wouldn't apply to our like city boundaries at all. And when you think about it, that impact is pretty small. Like a lot of the major workforce centers are in the cities. And so really, it wouldn't really touch us to that extent, but in the county's engagement work, which the legislation that enables us to pursue minimum wage requires a minimum level of engagement. The county is including their scope for those cities. So they have this survey that's currently out right now. And it's closing on October 16th. I was talking slow, thing is really hard. It's due to close October 16th, and anybody can respond to that survey. They're not just looking for people in unincorporated county. And the hope from their perspective is these economic conversations are so complex. Like when you study the literature and the studies that have happened in other places, it's really hard to link causality to any of the decisions. Like we raise the minimum wage, and then there's businesses that migrate to other places, but it's really hard to actually directly link that, because I think businesses and employees make their decisions on what's best for them for a lot of different reasons. And so as we're having these conversations and engaging folks, we're trying to take more of a broad holistic approach to understand like what role does minimum wage play in your life? Like what would an increase look like for you? What level should that increase be at? And we're hoping that the county's engagement efforts that they're doing right now, we're kind of hoping that they capture voices from in our cities, because that would certainly help our conversations that we're having. Does that help answer your question? Oh, and I guess what I would add to that too is long-term. So this is what the county is doing short-term, long-term. They have said that they want to stay in consultation with what the working group is doing, because they probably would want to align their eventual target wage to be similar or exactly the same as whatever the regional group decides. So they're kicking off with an initial increase next year, and they're getting that ball rolling. In the meantime, the regional group is working together on sort of a longer term plan. Because what the county's gonna have to end up doing is like sort of 2 rounds of engagement, 2 rounds of all this decision making, you know, getting it through all the processes and things like that. And that's totally okay. And in a way, it also helps us. They're building the framework, figuring out what does it look like to do this. Maybe they'll have some lessons learned that we can steal from at the end, but it does cause some confusion.
So if I can just sort of ask if this is what this in effect would mean, is that so the county will likely raise the minimum wage for unincorporated Boulder County sometime next year, and then the regional group of these 5 cities will probably do it, you know, within a year after, and then we should expect that at the end of at 2025 they'll both be at about the same, because they're trying to track to each other. But does that mean, for example, that next summer, if I'm a teenager and I'm looking for a summer job, I might get paid more if I'm working in the parts of the unincorporated Boulder County that has raised its minimum wage, than if I were to find a minimum wage job within the city of Boulder?
I think that's fair to assume.
Okay. Thanks.
Does anybody else want to jump in with questions before I go? So actually it was Elizabeth that's been really talking to me about this concept of what is our community goal? What is everybody coming to the table and agreeing that is the outcome of what we're doing? And actually this is part of the racial equity instrument, of course, is establishing outcomes, community results and organizational outcomes. So these are draft statements that we have taken a look at, both scoping teams, and revisited several times, and they've changed a little bit. And what's highlighted there at the bottom is shared outcomes. So I imagine I'll give folks a second to read it, but there's on the next slide, we have developed a list of shared outcomes. And these are in no particular order. These we continue to add to these, and we'd like to be as comprehensive as possible when we're talking about what is this impact. On one hand, I think what you could say is it's really hard to agree that minimum wage solves all of these things. And we're not trying to message that minimum wage is the silver bullet solution to affordability. Really, when you're talking about affordability, you bring down the cost of goods, or you bring up what people make to help relieve the gaps that we're facing. We're doing so much on the housing front, and we owe it to our community to explore all the levers that are available to help make our communities places where everybody can live, work, and play. So we are paying attention to this, and the list is really helpful for outlining just the complexity of the situation. Like one of the more sort of theoretical conversations we're having is, how does this relate to climate change? Like, as we continue to have colder, snowier winters and hotter summers, what does having more wages mean for people that are facing those hardships? And this also can serve as sort of a list of talking points when we're talking to our community members about what is the value of this research effort. Really, when we go back, and I'm sorry I'm jumping around here, when we go back to this, where we're at right now is 5 communities have said, yes, we want to explore this together. And the way we've messaged this is you don't have to adopt the ordinance at the end. There's a lot of decision points that come between now and that last gold star right there, which is, you know, deciding on an ordinance and communicating the decision. But the value of getting in and doing this with us now is we're all learning together. We're having similar conversations. We're creating similar data so that we can have at least like, we're basing our decisions off of all of the same information. And it could be that the shared outcomes and goals that we have no longer become shared. At which point you don't have to be part of the working group anymore. Come along with us until that happens. And that's really what's had a lot of value as we've been leading this effort across the county is just really emphasizing the collaboration and the integrity of the process. And honestly, there is a lot of appetite for more people, for more communities to be included. We get a lot of questions about, well, what about Superior? What about Broomfield? And these are good questions to ask. And there's, I think, several other points in the timeline where they could easily join the regional effort. But the entire process is designed to be flexible and invite participation or totally allow departure at any point. So we've talked about in the engagement, and I'm just sharing the level here. I'm sure you guys are aware of the IAP2 community engagement spectrum. We've identified that this phase 1 engagement will be on the involved level. Things, and it's about all I got so far. I have, like I said, those scoping teams meet every couple weeks, so we're learning fast, and I would like to keep this group updated and get your feedback at this point on anything you have to share, because this is certainly something that once we actually get into engagement, there's going to be a lot of different touch points that we're going to want to leverage to make sure that this reaches all of the right groups and individuals. It's fun. Thanks.
Thank you.
Questions?
Just, I have one more question. As part of the economic engagement, are people also looking at even beyond Boulder County and sort of like seeing what's happened with Denver and the research, presumably that they had done because they fairly recently raised the minimum wage there, I think.
True, yes. Denver was the first to adopt a minimum wage that exceeds the state minimum. And they did it pretty quickly. Actually, this was helped out by the fact that they had some years of conversation right before the legislation passed, and we had the preemption that got lifted. They had some years of conversation about raising their internal employee minimum wage, which is what we in the city of Boulder have too. We just raised that to like $22.44. So they essentially, the law passed, and then they were just able to say, well, we've done all this work on an internal employee minimum wage. Why wouldn't we expand that scope to the city? And they just sort of scoped it out, did the engagement that the mandate required, and got it passed like in 3 months. It was pretty incredible. Edgewater was the most recent other city to pass an ordinance. They did just last May. And we had a conversation with them. There was a lot of really good lessons learned. And then Fort Collins, who's on a bi-weekly conversation with us because Fort Collins had done a couple of years of engagement in trying to raise their minimum wage. Their council ended up rejecting it a few months ago because council preferred staff pursue a regional approach. Cool idea, right? And so now we continue to collaborate and stay informed on what everybody is doing across the state so that we have some lessons learned, but it is unclear to me where exactly, like if we went outside of the county, if we maybe say included Fort Collins in the effort and they jointly adopted an IGA with us, what would that really impact in the legislation? Because there's some other nuts and bolts. Sorry guys, I'm trying to stay like out of the weeds like as much as I can.
Hey Taylor, IGA means?
Oh, intergovernmental agreement.
Thank you.
And I think that's the perfect segue. Oh, go ahead.
I do have a quick question. I'm curious to how you guys chose that 15% increase, that number.
That's one of the baked in pieces of the legislation. And honestly, what's great about the lift of the preemption is it lays out certain mandates, like whatever your raise is, either an escalation to a target or an annual adjustment, it can't exceed 15% or $1.75. So that's baked in there, some decision making like taken out for us. It has to include all workers, tipped workers, emancipated minors, like passing through a city is not included, but working there is. Like there's some baked in pieces. And so the 15% is just the top of the threshold for, like, that's the most you could raise it in any given year. So the county's just deciding to max it out.
I just wanted to intersect here for a moment because historically speaking, the commission, the Human Relations Commission has been heavily involved in minimum wage. Specifically looking into staff wages, right? So I was able to track down some back history and understand that these efforts on living wage for city staff are not foreigner to the Human Relations Commission, including proposing a resolution, looking into what is the analysis of full-time employees versus temporary, seasonal contractors and whatnot. So it's been an example of collaborations too, meaning that at some point the Human Relations Commission hosted or sponsored a community dialogue between the Latino Chamber of Commerce, Boulder Chamber of Commerce, and the League of Women Voters, and the HRC came together, hosted this community dialogue. People came and shared what their opinions and experiences were. So the place and seats that you're currently in are a place where this conversation has happened in the past, as a body that tends to seek for the interests of the community. So yeah, and another point, there was a forum on poverty and minimum wage and self-sufficiency standards, and you were diving deep as a commission into that research and what that looked like. So perhaps some of the work now is going to look different because there's all these other intergovernmental, what is it, IGA?
Yeah.
Intergovernmental.
Well, IGA is like a boring document,
Tend
but
to learn.
municipal partners.
Okay, great. There's this collaboration between municipalities, but that could fit into what is, opening the question of what is the role of the HRC, as Taylor said, to like to come in, bring updates and gather your feedback. So I just wanted to share that historical context of work that the Human Relations Commission has done in the past.
Any other question or comment?
Well, and we'll have more to share on action and, here's the survey, fill it out. And when we actually implement some of the engagement steps right now, we're just in scoping. But there is that Boulder County survey, and I would encourage folks, I can share it with Ingrid and Elizabeth so that it gets to you. Filling that out and adding those voices early will be helpful for our conversation. We also have an RFI, just another acronym. I don't even know what that one stands for, but sort of out to consultants who do economic analysis work to figure out what would be the cost of this work. And so we have a condensed version of a scope of what that economic analysis would look like. We're going to expand on it for the full RFP. But if you're interested in the economic analysis, I'll include that link and you can get a taste of what that's going to look like.
And RFP?
Oh, I do know that one, request for proposals.
Okay. Do you all know what that is? A request for proposals?
No.
Can you share a little bit about what that means?
Yeah, so before we spend an amount of taxpayer dollars, I believe it's if we exceed 10,000 and 50,000, we have to go through these rigorous process to solicit the community for who does this work and like what would you charge for it? And we evaluate their proposals and see what qualifications do you bring to the table, like what's the like end all dollar amount you would charge. And we make thoughtful decisions about how we award those monies and get the work done that we need to do as a city, but we don't necessarily have the expertise for in-house. And it's like, it's a cumbersome process, I'm finding.
Un proceso de licitación. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And at the last meeting that we have last month, we talked about if some of you or were interested in participate in this kind of things. Somebody wants to follow up what is happening.
Like what opportunities will there be for participation
Mhm.
for the HRC?
Yeah, well, and I think that that's one of the questions I want to ask the engagement scoping team, because we have HRC. I imagine like the HAB might be interested in an update on this work. There's other boards and commissions in the city that might benefit from this kind of conversation. I'm trying to figure out from other cities, do you have similar boards and commissions that you might want to talk about? When does it make sense for those conversations to happen? Obviously, Elizabeth, you and I have been talking about this for a while, so I was happy to come and share an update on what's going on here and also sort of test out like, is this the right time? Do we have a lot of feedback at this point? And what sorts of things might you like to see in the future? So if I could say TBD on that, to be determined, and just work with Elizabeth and get through this process that we're doing with the scoping team and probably be able to better answer that later on.
So we can call you if we don't hear from you first. For an
Yes.
update.
I would like there to be like board conversations in all the cities. I think it makes sense.
Good.
Well, you know where to reach. And how. Christine, do you have any final comments on this item?
Can hear us.
We read your lips.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. No, I don't have any more questions right now. Thank you so much, Taylor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we are going to 6B, says emergency response connectors and connectors in residence.
And I'm happy to facilitate this piece if you want me to, or you can go ahead and do so.
Yeah, you can start, I can.
Okay. This is a conversation that it was a item that we had tabled from the retreat. It was listed as one of the retreat items that we didn't really get to last month. But this pretty much the conversation is about understanding what is it that you know about the connectors program. Thank you, Taylor. And if you know what the specific roles of these groups are. I'm just gonna pause there for a moment before going into the in depth of it. Do you all know or have heard about the connectors, community connectors?
Mhm.
Okay. Do you mind sharing what is it that you know about it?
Is this what we discussed at the last meeting a little bit, where instead of sending emergency response personnel, we would send people.
No, this is different. Benny was born out of the community engagement team, reaching out really to community members to come up during the thick of the pandemic. The conversation actually happened a little bit prior, but it really gained momentum during the beginning of the pandemic when so many people in many communities, and specifically communities that were underserved, didn't have access to resources. Now, they do have different kind of pathways that have developed and unfolded over time as the pandemic has moved through. So there's different subgroups that have different tasks. So but the overall purpose of the community connectors are that these are residents or people who live embedded in our communities, and they are there to elevate underrepresented voices and build trust between the government and communities. So it's basically like a community liaison. They partner with the city to create opportunities for community engagement, share resources. And Carlos is the perfect example. He is a community connector and has been for how many years now, Carlos?
Since the pandemic started,
Okay, so at least what, 3 years?
3 years, 4 years.
Something like that. And and you can speak about your experience, Carlos, on these, but they really are there to make those connections and share resources with the communities. They do receive a stipend for their time commitment, time and expertise, and they're involved in different capacities and programs across the city. They meet regularly, and as I said, they sit on different subgroups and capacities. So let's say at a group where they're trying to connect and get the impact and opinions of a community in a project that is going to impact them, then a community connector is invited to participate in those conversations. Carlos, maybe you can share a little bit more about the work that happens in that as a connector yourself.
Yeah. Ingrid said we started to work since the pandemic. And community connectors, we are a connection between the community and the city. Yeah, the city brings us all the resources to the community connectors, and we share with the communities. Yeah, we did we handle a lot of max. We work with the shots when they were here. I was in all that. We did tests. When the test started, we were in the test. And it was a great experience because I don't know, be with the community when they need the support of the city, and the city was there. And this is the first city that did this. No, any city have this, and I don't know what else to say, but it was a great experience to be a community connector, emergency response connector.
So yeah, there's that difference on emergency response connectors. You may hear connectors and residents, but the overall umbrella is the connectors program, the community connectors program. So it is like you were saying, like during the thickness of the pandemic, they were really out there, like handling masks and doing all these emergency kind of response work with sharing resources. And they still do connect and are able to connect communities with resources. Most recently, you were all involved in coordinating the block parties and manufactured home communities, where it was basically a resource fair and an opportunity to build community. So like I remember last month during the retreat, you were all talking about resources and sharing resources. So now we are not saying that you cannot do that, but it's the biggest scope of your work has shifted because there's these other groups that are doing that kind of work already embedded in the communities. Now, it is important for you to know that the community connectors are, and the work is happening out there. And I guess the question that we wanted to pose is like, first, are you interested in inviting them and get to know more about what they do? Or are you interested ongoing? You don't always have to wait for people to come here. You can also be invited to maybe to one of their meetings and get to know them that way. And also in the spirit of the conversation you were having last month, which we already have a perfect example here. Carlos started as a community connector, and then we were able to share, hey, the Human Relations Commission is recruiting. Is anyone interested? And Carlos applied and got appointed, the story. So it is an opportunity to look into the conversation that you were having last month with Nia about creating a structure for what the future of the HRC recruitment could look like too. Or any other questions you may want to have or know about the Connectors program is something that we're bringing to the table to hear what you think. I'm going to stop sharing and shush to hear what you all have to share about it.
Christine?
Yeah, I'm super interested in hearing more. I'd be interested in just sort of knowing how many community connectors are there? Which underrepresented populations do they represent? And then, just to hear from them what they think are both some of the goals and what they want to do, and some of the challenges that they think exist between the city and their communities. So yeah, I'm super interested. And I think it's a great idea, especially, we have Carlos with us as a great example for this, but I think it's a great idea to see community connectors as a possibility of people who may be interested in joining the HRC in the future. Sorry, I talked too fast.
Or any other board for that matter, right?
Right.
It's about thinking on those leadership opportunities for people who are out there doing the work and learning and may want to take a leap forward. Anything else? You may hear, if you tune into some conversations of city council or other boards and commissions, that they're often referring to the community connectors. So it is important for you to all to tune into and get closer to understand their roles, their potential, and see also where you all fit within the whole picture too.
Any thoughts?
I agree with Christine. I think it would be good to hear.
To know more. Hear about this before.
I'm sorry, what?
I never hear about this connectors before.
Okay. And are you interested in bringing them here to go in there? Is there a preference on how that happens? We have to run it by them anyway and their coordinators and staff, but if you have a strong preference.
What I've heard of it is kind of close to like Carol's Scouts, but I have heard it's a small group. So I don't know if the work they do is really, I'm not gonna say it's not enough, but it's probably just.
Speak up, please.
Really shine. Yeah, I think, if they can come in, I don't know, you guys. That would be probably easier, like she just, what's her name again?
Taylor?
Taylor, yeah, like, can explain better, that's probably. Would be the easiest.
We'll follow up on that, Carlos
Okay.
and Chair. Okay. Okay. The other item, do you want to
Yeah,
move forward?
let's talk about the work plan 23-24.
I made a mistake. It was 24, 20, 25. I'm not moving on. I'm sorry, that was my mistake. Yeah. But go ahead.
I'm okay if we just skip this year and move to 24, 25. That would work for me.
Or at least these last few months. Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about what do you think about what do you want to work in the next year? What do you want to plan? But we have to think that we have to work in it should be in common with the city council.
Right. And if I may interject here, the conversation that you all had last at the retreat included reviewing what kind of items were still pending from 2023, 2024 and 2024, 2025. What were some of those topics of interest, right? So we all heard from you that you wanted to have a shared location, a document where you could easily access and keep track of conversations, including events and opportunities for you to engage. So I can present these to you all. I created this document as a proposal for you to take a look and let me know if this is a format that works for you. Otherwise, I can always tweak and change things. But this is a template of an example where I kind of populated some things based on our conversations in your conversations from last month. For instance, from 2023, and these are the items that are assigned as kind of work items that are in progress, right? The conversation about protected class, what was the desired income, outcome, who was leading that and how supported, what is the timeline and where we're at. Also, understanding tracking progress of the racial equity plan, minimum wage that you just heard about today, Older Junction Phase 2, where, for instance, Anna seeks at. So this is really a document where you can go ahead and keep track of every work item. We spoke about the child-friendly initiatives, reimagining police, care insert, all of these items you heard about this last year. So this is really a document where you can interact with these items and revisit. We can revisit and use it at every meeting for you to know what the advancement or the progress has been on those items. And if someone has something to report, I mean, you have to engage with the document. So that's why I wanted to present it to you and make sure that it works for you. It's Excel's is Excel spreadsheet. So you will have to enter items as you work through those. I'm gonna stop there for a moment and answer any questions from the first section that I just presented. Question, comments, what can be improved, what you like, what you don't like?
I have a question about child-friendly cities. I think you mentioned it's gonna be some meeting about like participation in UNESCO or older.
Right.
I'm just want to know when it's gonna happen and I want to participate.
Okay, so for instance, this is a great example where you can say, I'm very interested on this. I want to be either sit at the committee or support whoever goes there, and you can add your name here. We will have to add the details of meetings and whatnot. And then you can add the steps that you have taken. I attended the meeting on October 1st. I updated the commission, and here are the notes. So you can put a link in there with the notes that you have taken on that meeting, etc. I don't think the purpose of presenting the tool is to dive deep into all of these items, is to present the tool as a mechanism that you can use to track the items. Does that make sense?
I really like it, Ingrid. It's so organized. And I like that we can view it visually. I like that we can update it. So we have access to this and we can update it.
Well, I haven't shared it with you yet. I was hoping to get your feedback today, make changes, and then share it with you all. So you can start working with it. Now, it is okay if you make a mistake and you delete something. I'll make sure that I save a copy so we can track changes too. But this will be a live document. So some changes I might not be able to recover, but I will try to back it up as much as possible. We can also sit down and try to, work together on it if that's a need that you have. So there's no need or pressure on you having to learn how to be an expert in Excel. It's pretty simple. But I also wanted to let you know that you all have our support in how we get familiar with the tool and use it moving forward. Christine, I cannot see you. Feel free to interrupt me at any point. Now, there are other, if you scroll down, you will see what are the council advisory needs, and we can list those. What is the goal? Who's leading? Again, the same prompts, and we can change it as we go or modify it or adjust it. And then there's a couple of internal work items like that you brought up during the retreat, like creating a succession plan. What is the recruitment process going to be like? The onboarding, who's going to do it, by when, etc. And then a topic, for instance, of you all want and need name tags to go out into the world and represent the Human Relations Commission. So yes, what do you want in those name tags? Do you want your pronouns? Do you want your hablo español? Do you want I speak Russian? Or whatever it is that you identify with, we can enter that here. I can put like, oh, I submitted the order. And you can all see what are the steps that have been taken in order to accomplish that work item. I took the liberty of plugging in some of the community engagement opportunities that are happening in the upcoming weeks. So this is something that it is ready for you to look at and sign up. In this back section, I added who's hosting the event, what is the description of the event. So if you scroll here, you will be able to read the full description, when, where, and who is going. That is something that you also express the desire of having a place where you can see what are the events that are happening and sign up, or at least that you know among yourselves who's going and how Yeah, who's attending, and then you come and report to the meetings or share among yourselves. Thank you, Victor.
I think this looks great. It's like a really good way of sort of not having to scroll too much and being able to get an overall view of all the various activities that we might be engaged in. I think it looks awesome. Thanks, Ingrid.
You're welcome, Christine. We can create, we can see how it goes and adapt it. I mean, maybe we can do a 6 month, because I can see how the community engagement opportunities is gonna get large, right? Or maybe some of the work items as well. But perhaps the community engagement opportunities, maybe you said, you know what, put it on a different tab. I have to scroll too much, or let's create it by quarters or half of the year and the other half of the year, whatever you want and need. We can continue working together and trying to improve the tool so it works for you.
Looks really great, but that's look really good.
It might look really good, but is it functional?
useful?
Is
It
it,
is.
yeah,
It is.
Yeah, very, very.
It is.
useful.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Like everything being in one place is very helpful.
Ingrid, I was gonna ask, I don't know if like this is like a great tracker. Is there also a column where appropriate where we could add links? So if that would be like a link to a working document or a link to a website, like I'm just kind of making this up, but like, for example, the Reimagining Policing, I think the city probably has quite a lot of information on its website, and maybe, you know, it's helpful to just have comments or links, just something, resources that we can just go to easily from this tracker.
Yeah, that's a great observation. Would that be helpful for everybody? Okay. I'll make sure that gets frozen into column H. Anything else? There are tips and things that we can look along as we move through it, like, where is this document gonna live? Is it gonna live in that email that Ingrid is gonna share with you next week? And then you have to scroll all the way down to find that email and that link. So we can make sure, like, if you need to help to save it to your favorites or to pin it or something that really helps you find the spreadsheet, because it's great that it's gonna be everything in one place, but if you can't land on it, it happens to me all the time when I'm like, oh, this document is great, and then I can't find it if I don't properly make it accessible to myself, especially because it's live.
Yeah, to put it in Google Drive, to share with people, and it's possible to update, like.
That is a tricky request because we do have very internal security kind of policies in place. So we can't use Google. We may have to see what is the most efficient way for you to being able to have it live. I can grant you access to it. And that's very limited. It's like for you only. As many, you know, it's not for public. This is not a public facing document. So you cannot reshare it or clone it or anything like that.
I have a quick question.
Mhm.
If you don't mind scrolling to the left, I'm forgetting. So for example, for number 5, the Child Friendly Cities Initiative, it says the outcome is to participate and be informed. So within the time that we meet, within the month that we don't meet, if somebody is assigned to work on that, how do we get that information? For example, how do we become informed? Are there steps to that? Do you know what I mean?
To that, just an
Yeah, thanks.
example, so these are the Child Friendly Cities initiatives process that's already happening, right? So there are going to be opportunities moving forward where the city, our partners Growing Up Boulder, it's a nonprofit organization in Boulder. And other organizations in the city that serve children will be, or parents or caregivers of children. We'll be having opportunities for community members, including children, to engage, to provide input, to discuss, issues that are priority. And it's possible like that would not happen. Those processes are not happening at an HRC meeting. But for example, if Anna wanted to, and the whole group said like, yes, we would actually love to have Anna, kind of represent the HRC, be our eyes and ears at that process and bring back information, then we would simply make sure that Anna had the information about when those events are coming up. So again, it can track here, right? So everybody can see like, oh yeah, we're just making this up, right? But at the October meeting, right? If you have a meeting and want to talk about, get an update on child-friendly cities, we might say, here's some of these opportunities. And then Anna will have that information and be able to say, I'm picking this up again, but in January, right? Say like, well, I participated in this meeting. Here's what we talked about. Here's where the rights of the child issues and other things that are related to the HRC came up, that sort of thing. So
That makes sense. So
all the communication doesn't need to happen through this document, right? Or like Ingrid had below, one of the things you talked about at the retreat was like, look at all those Indigenous Peoples' Day events that are happening. Do you want to talk amongst yourself and see like, is anybody going to go to those events? Is there somebody who wants to go to the Fair Housing Forum? You decide that and have that discussion at these meetings, but this is where we can just track, like who said they were gonna do that? And then do you wanna all hear about it afterward, so make sure there's some clarity on what you all are doing maybe between meetings as an HRC member. And so there's an opportunity to track that, bring it back to the group, and when you wanna do that.
okay.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, totally.
So, as I said, it doesn't have to be set on stone. I'm gonna just go ahead and fix some of these, do some editing on fixing some of these rows and columns. So it's not a lot of moving pieces. And then I will be able to share it with you all, so you can start using it. And if you have additional feedback, please just send it my way. Happy to make modifications. It is 7:49, and I do want to share, obviously, these events that are happening. These are sponsored by the city. So as you know, in the past, and thank you, Fikir, for being part of the grant review process with our staff, with Jalea, Markeisha, and myself too. You've been looking at these applications, so maybe some of these sound familiar, but for the Indigenous People Day Human Relations Fund, those funds have been allocated and those events are coming up soon. So as you see, all of these are happening in October, really close to one another, really cool opportunities for you to attend to different events and learn about these opportunities. So that aside, there is item number 6, the Fair Housing Forum. This is an event that I will be sharing a flyer with you and a short description of what it is. It's going to be hosted in this building, in upstairs, and potentially this room as well. This is an event that is a collaboration between the Denver Metro Fair Housing Center and Housing and Human Services. And it's gonna be a forum that is specifically going to talk about share information about rights and responsibilities of landlords and voucher holders. So whoever has a voucher or a housing voucher choice or Section 8, that is subsidized housing, subsidized voucher, will be able to learn what are the rights and responsibilities in the spirit of avoiding cases of discrimination based on income. So sometimes some landlords do not like to rent their units to people who are voucher holders. And it's an issue that we're facing. So the Denver Metro Fair Housing is hosting a series across the state. And this event is sponsored by HUD, which is thank you, and CHAFA as well, who regulates a lot of the money that goes out to housing, subsidized housing projects. So it is important that, because it is within the scope of your work and my work, to prevent discrimination against or based on source of income. So it is an important topic, and I will encourage you all to participate in this forum. It is on October 7th from 10 to 12:30. And the idea is to make it as accessible as possible. It's going to be hybrid. There's going to be a panel and then breakout rooms between landlords and tenants, so they all know what are the rights and responsibilities. And if you have any questions, let me know, but I'll share more information about this forum. There's going to be some resources too. Questions?
Is this online?
It's hybrid, and they're also going to host 2 more events in partnership with the Center for People with Disabilities. One of them is going to be online only, and the other one is going to be in person only. So that is information that I also have available, and I will send it to you in case that you cannot make it to the October 7th event. You might be able to go to the same sessions hosted and through the Center for People with Disabilities. And then they're just gonna keep going through other cities and state across the state. Yeah, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen now. That's the tool that I will be sharing with you. And then I think that's, let me go back to the previous screen. Carlos, I'll pass it to you.
Yeah. Okay. Point 7. Follow-up items.
Yeah, so I have a couple items to follow up on. One of them is connecting with Taylor to get access to that survey on minimum wage from Boulder County. And I will be sharing that with you. The other item that I have is sharing the tracker, making the edits and share it with you. Also consult and share, have a conversation with our community connectors, staff, coordinator, to make arrangements for future meetings, to connect you with their program and their participants. And then it is on you to decide what and how you're gonna move forward with the item that both community members, Lindsay Lover and Stan Dietz, brought up to tonight.
Questions, comments?
Do you all have clarity on how you're gonna move forward with that item?
I don't think so. What do you think?
Because.
Would you mind just recap, for my benefit and maybe speakers, who missed that part of the discussion, would you mind just recapping where you left off?
Yeah, of
Thank you.
course.
Would that be helpful, speaker?
So, both community members requested for the HRC support on, editing, drafting, putting together a memo to send to council, making a recommendation on a ballot initiative 302. Following, an initiative, the same, process that you went through last spring, on a different, ballot initiative. I don't know if you recall, on odd versus even years. So the request is to draft the document. This group specifically is advocating to vote no on the initiative, meaning that they, think that, the ballot initiative proposes that any camping area within certain distance of schools and spaces should not be there. There should not be tents, or any kind of camping, in those areas. And what the group is proposing, as far as I understand, is that it shouldn't be, just one single measure that is applicable throughout the city. That, there could be different criteria that applies to different areas rather than having this specific approach to, different areas. So they offered to, help with the drafting or submit a draft to you all for you to review, to edit, to give feedback. But again, it will be signed by and suggested by you as a body, as a commission. I do want to remind you that as a staff member, I cannot, or neither can Elizabeth, support you with this effort because we cannot be involved in anything that is related to ballot initiatives or elections for that matter. So it is on you to decide if you want to move forward in supporting the initiative and what they're proposing, or reading it, learning more about it, whatever you decide to do, and submitting it to council on behalf of the HRC.
I think we got this morning an email about that.
Yeah.
You can read it if you with fine we want. And we have to take a decision that we are going to do about that.
Did Lizzie share a timeline on that? I don't recall.
I don't know, I haven't read it completely,
Okay.
sorry. Because
So the ballot measure will be on the ballot for the election on the first week of November. So I think my understanding is that if the HRC wants to actually speak as a whole on this, the sooner we do it, the better, because the election's only, what, 6 weeks away.
I got something I sent to everyone, will all be okay? And you guys can make a change for this?
I thought Lindsay and the was going to draft something. Did we draft our own thing?
No, yeah, no, breath, no like nonprofit organization can kind of write your document for you, right? You have to speak as the HRC if you choose to do that.
Oh, okay.
So Speaker, I think the process would work similarly to, if we were to do this, it would work similarly to the letter that I kind of took the lead on last year for that ballot initiative 2E for even year elections.
Yes,
We would, yeah, so I think basically, you missed this, but unfortunately, even though I support this group and I will not be voting for this ballot measure myself personally, I'm pretty limited in what I can do. So I think the open question for our group is if we feel like we want to weigh in on this as a group, we need somebody to take the lead. I'm happy to sort of advise and help, but we would need somebody to take the lead. And both Lindsay and Stan have offered to also help. So if it's a question of people, not feeling like right now that they don't know enough about the issue, they're happy to talk to anybody more about it. Lindsay also offered to, get a draft started, but we would need someone in our commission who's currently a commissioner to sort of spearhead this work for the commission, because they, as former commissioners, can't really do it. They can help, but that's really, I think, where we are. And Elizabeth and Ingrid,
Yeah, just
tell me if I'm wrong, but
wanna
I
be-
think that's
yeah,
where we are.
crystal clear, right, is that only commissioners can speak for commissioners, right? So again, like I wasn't in the room, when the recommendation or the request was made. But if a commission decides to write up a recommendation to go to city council, that needs to come from you all. Right, not like, here's a letter that somebody else drafted. And you're putting your names to it and go ahead. I don't think that's what Christine was suggesting, but I just want to be 100% clear.
I'm not sure if you guys had already discussed what you wanted to do before I came. I feel like I don't know enough.
We did not. But my understanding of where we left it is that there seemed to be, I mean, I know a fair amount about it, but I just don't have the capacity to lead on this. And so my understanding was that that some of you in the room were interested in learning more, and we're going to maybe try and connect with Lindsay and Stan to learn more. And then, I think if somebody wanted to take this on, given that the election is in November, we still do have one meeting between now and then. And so it could be something that gets added to the next agenda. If somebody had a draft and wanted to add it to the agenda, then we could sort of decide then. But it really is if somebody here has the capacity and the willingness to sort of spearhead this on behalf of the five of us. And I mean, if we want to discuss, like, I don't know if any of the others of you have been following this, and if you actually have a position on it yourselves. But I would say probably the best bet is to learn more about it first, because it's possible that none of you actually have an opinion on it at this moment yet.
I don't think I have an opinion on it right now. Maybe we can set a deadline, everyone do the research by this date, and let's email if we want to do this. I don't know. Well, that sounds.
You can communicate with each other during meetings as long as you're not emailing as a group. That kind of constitutes as a meeting. But if you have the ability to kind of communicate with each other, one-on-one, that's perfectly legitimate.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Stan and Lindsay came here and they're very steeped in the issue. They know it much better than I do. I know it, at a pretty high level. So I do think that if any of you want to learn more and have made an offer to talk to any of you offline, and you can take them up on that. And I'm sure also the same thing goes for the side that is proposing the ballot, I'm sure there are a lot of people who would like to talk about that too, so.
Right.
In what you can do and email out or
My idea,
go out and protest.
my idea is, that's my own opinion, I'm not asking anybody to be part of it, I think.
Speak up a little, please.
Yeah, I'm having trouble hearing.
Um. My idea is that, I think it's a good initiative to take from homeless, and I think they're suffering enough from what they're enduring just by being in the street. Because I think if we can do something to support them, that would be good. That's my idea. I'm not saying everyone should be on the same page because we're older, and then I think, if you guys feel like it, talk me out and give my opinion here. And I'm happy to support them and draft something and send it, and you guys can look at it. If not, that's okay.
I would like to learn more about distances, how close to school. Yeah, it's gonna be, because I'm not against like homeless people. I'm supportive, but sometimes they addicted to substances, to drugs and aggressive. And I need to learn more about this stuff. Even right here, if I'm walking to my car, I'm not feel safe. Yeah.
Maybe me and
Do-
you and know Carlos where you stand, but we should do research by a certain day.
Yeah.
And then we can all see, like, tell JH, okay, we're ready to go. You can write this if we agree to do it. And then by that date, if we all aren't on the consensus, does that mean we just don't do it? Right? If we all don't agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think as Lindsay and Stan pointed out, any of us as individuals can sign to support what they're doing. Do you all sort of understand what the ballot is proposing and why Lindsay and Stan are against it? Or is it helpful for me to give you, my understanding of it in a very quick way?
Yes, please.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so the backdrop to this is that because of where Boulder High is located, near the creek path, where a lot of homeless people set up camps, there has been an increasing sense among some people that over the last 2-3 years, a lot of students are actually, their safety has been endangered. And that's because there are some stories where some students have reported being harassed or, drug use going on in those areas. The city of Boulder, the police have the ability to sweep camps, to basically ask people who are camping to move and go away. And so there is a group of parents who are now putting this proposition forward that would require the police to sweep in certain areas around schools. I can't remember the numbers that Stan and Lindsay said, but up to however many feet, they have to prioritize sweeping near the schools. Nobody is disagreeing that there isn't a problem and that students and children should have the right to feel safe. I think what Stan and Lindsay and their group, which is called Solutions, Not Safe Zones, they're saying that this proposed solution to sweep close to schools will actually have effects that are more harmful than the problem that they're trying to fix. and that the effects would be, for example, actually discrimination, or it'll be much harder on the homeless population, and it will just sort of move the problem from one place to another. I think it also says that it does not give the city or the police enough flexibility in how they choose to deal with the homelessness issue. And to me, personally, that actually was a very standout point, because they're saying the police already have the ability to prioritize. And this would basically write it into, I guess, an ordinance, and then actually take away the flexibility of the city and the police and how to deal with the homelessness problem. So to me, that was a very compelling argument. So that's basically, it is a hot topic. A lot of people feel very strongly about it on both sides. And I would say, you know, you could go to, they each have websites detailing their position. And so they have more detail there. So that's basically the issue, is that Stan and Lindsay and their group, they are saying that this ballot proposal is not actually going to address the problem, and it will cause more problems. Is that clear?
Yeah, thank you, Christine.
Okay. And I hope Elizabeth and Ingrid, if you know that I factually misrepresented something, if you can pipe up, that would be great, because I know I don't always get it right.
Yeah, I don't think it's as appropriate for us to say anything about it,
At
but
all.
just to point out there's any ballot issue, there's lots of public information, and I think on any topic, we would want commissioners to order commissioners to do that research.
Thank you.
I don't know that you need to take a vote per se on this, but just making sure with each other that you're kind of agreed on what those next steps are.
So just look into it and talk to JH, let her inform everyone where we're at, maybe by like next Friday.
Okay. Yeah.
And again, one by one. 101. So if there's 3 people, it's considered quorum. That means it's considered a meeting. And that's against the rules of coordination. Commission. So. Okay.
Okay. I think that's all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, there's just a couple of other things I wanted to make sure you're aware of, so, there was a reimagining police, presentation to city council, that's been a topic, that you've all talked about, that was September 7th, at city council meeting, the, recording, right, all city council meetings are recorded, and they're on YouTube, you can watch them anytime, but if you want, we can find the link and share it if you all had wanted to see it or come to the meeting and you just were not able to. There's another on September 28th, our Housing Human Services Department will be providing a homelessness update. It's an annual update to City Council. That's on September 28th, and again, it's you're able to watch it online. You're more than welcome to do that, and all of the council meetings are available afterward, but just wanted to let you know that was coming up. In addition to the Indigenous Peoples Day events that Ingrid shared, on this Thursday's city council meeting, there will be a very short declaration acknowledging Hispanic Heritage Month. And yeah, we can continue. Ingrid has done that in the past, kind of let you know what declarations are coming up. They're very short segments right at the beginning of a council meeting, but good for you to know about as sometimes they relate more directly than others to HRC work. So, just a few items coming up. Let us know at any time if you have questions about other processes or kind of issues that are happening in the city within Housing Human Services or elsewhere, and we can do that. I think there's an update on the Boulder Junction. Again, for city council coming up as well.
You know what about? I got email about coming hearings for coming. But it's gonna be on Wednesday, I think. This Wednesday? Yeah, I need to check. This one, yes, Wednesday.
Maybe if you can share that with me and I'll share it with the group.
Yeah, absolutely. I will check.
In case there's interest on tuning in on that conversation as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We need a motion. Finish our meeting.
But you all wanna stay.
Great.
Yeah, we can.
Nobody wants to go home.
Look at my figure.
I'll do it.
Just say, you can just say, I make a motion to adjourn,
Okay.
and then somebody else can second it. And then you're done. That's all it takes.
Right.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting on September 19th, 2023.
I second.
Thank you. You'll
You can say all.
say hi.
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 Great.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
everybody.
everybody. Thank you for staying.
Feel better, Christine.
Is there a way
Thanks.
to learn those words somewhere? Ingrid, no?
What's that?
Is there a place you learn like what to say?
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.